This is a story that haunts me daily. This happened in 1992, and I had just graduated high school and was working in a warehouse. I kinda enjoyed it and settled thinking that I would probably retire here. Yup, I had zero ambition. I was a sad, lazy, cringe-inducing shitbag. And then, a new guy started. It's a warehouse with a high turnover, so nothing unusual about new guys. But everyone asked if we were related because we looked alike. He was probably late 30s, early 40s, and I was 18 at that time, and he was fatter. He seemed to carry himself like me, the way he walked and spoke. On his second day, we worked together on a wrapping station, and the first thing he said to me was, "You still have that Penthouse magazine under your mattress." I did. Weird, but totally normal for teen boys, I suppose. He then said, "I know everything about you. You're worried about never getting a girlfriend." I was floored, but again, thought it was a usual teenage thing. I mean, I wasn't the best looking guy, so I guess it wasn't a stretch to guess. Probably the start of bullying and the end of my job is one thing. But what I liked most about myself is that I have no problems fighting anyone, anywhere, anytime. No matter how big or how many, I was always down. I never won, but I could take a beating, and the person usually quit and never messed with me again. I asked him why he was saying all this shit, and he looked at me. And his expression is seared into my mind and left an image that I see daily. He said, "I am you." He then went on to tell me everything about myself, and I mean my deepest, darkest secrets that no one knows. Then he kept telling me more about myself. Then we went to lunch and were outside smoking. And yep, same brand, Camel Wide regulars. It was hard to find where I lived, so I never seen anyone else smoking them. I asked him to be serious and how he knew all this shit. He said, "I already told you, Tom Thawk." Tom Thawk is a nickname only one person called me, and he was my dad's friend that I barely saw. A crappy Jetta pulled into the parking lot, and he said that that's our girl. She's a demon who's horrible to us. I asked him why he was with her, and he said, "Well, she's the best we could do." When she got out, she was disgusting looking, and I mean trailer trash would be too kind, and she waddled her ass over to us. She said, "Let's go." Before he left, he stared right into my soul and said, "We deserve better. Please, go to college and stop being lazy and make something out of yourself." Trailer Park Girl just kinda laughed it like, "Yeah, right." He left with her, and I never saw him again. I think I ran into a younger version of her at a friend's house years later, and he introduced me and said that we should hook up. I said no. I went to college and stopped being a pathetic, lazy cringe fest, and I accomplished everything I set out to do, as I always felt the need to not let him down. I know, none of this makes sense. How can I explain something that I can barely understand myself? None of it makes sense whatsoever. Like, why would a future me get a job with me? He had to fill out a job application and have his references checked, right? And yes, I asked my manager, who was a POS, who just told me to mind my own damn business and focus on my job and try to be less of a screw-up. Has anyone had something like this happen to them? It's haunted me daily since. I'm 48 and I have not seen any time travel machines. Help me out here. Maybe end this once and for all. Please, tell me your experience. I apologize for any grammar or anything like that, but I don't want to go over this any more than I have to, as I usually get depressed when I think of this. This happened to me several days ago, and I'm still unsure what to think about it. I was at Whole Foods to pick up an Amazon package because they have the pickup lockers right outside the entrance in the parking garage. I walk up to the lockers, and there's this guy standing right in front of the lockers, just staring straight ahead. He doesn't acknowledge me, so I ask him if he needs help. Nothing. Doesn't even seem like he heard me. Just keeps staring ahead, not blinking or moving. So I go inside the store to get an employee so they can maybe call for medical or police help, and also so I can safely get my package. While talking with an employee, another shopper overheard me and said, "Oh, I'm glad you said something, 'cause I saw him when I came in and thought it was creepy, and that was about 20 minutes ago." The employee comes out with me and asks the man to leave, but he just keeps staring. I get my package and get in my car, which is parked right in front so I can still see him. I see the employee go back inside, probably to call the police. I look down for maybe 5 seconds to start my car, look back up, and he's gone. I see the employee come back out looking confused. He starts walking around the parking garage to see where the guy went, but he can't find him. There's nowhere he could have gone in the few seconds that I was looking away. There was only a few other cars in the garage, and none of them were occupied. I don't know what to make out of it, but my friend suggested that he was on drugs, but he didn't seem like it. Clean clothes, fit and healthy looking, no cracked out eyes or anything. But still, it wouldn't explain how he just disappeared. Was this a glitch? This is a long story, and I'm on my phone, so I apologize for any mistakes. For background info, the incident happened at my aunt's old one-story house. At the time this occurred, there were 10 people in the house in total. Also, only 3 to 4 were adults, making 6 kids that were living there. This is important because the house was always loud. Another important part is that we lived about half a mile from a local airport where planes would fly all the time. So it was loud inside and outside all the time, and we didn't have money to do much, so someone was always home. The story begins when I first wake up and I had a bunk bed with my twin. My cousins, all girls, shared another bunk bed along the wall. I noticed that it's eerily quiet, but I don't think much of it yet. I get up, and in all the other beds, the covers were messy, like they just got up. No one was in the room, and I thought they had just gotten up to go play and eat breakfast. I got up and went into the living room, where I was met with complete silence. The house is usually booming with activity by 11 a.m., yet not a single soul was anywhere in the living room. I went into the kitchen next, no one again. I went into both of my cousins' rooms on the opposite sides of the house. The covers were undone in both, and no one was in either room. I got into my aunt's and uncle's room, which was a last resort for me because you're not supposed to go in there unless you have to. And I go in to find that their room was exactly like all the rest in the house, covers unturned, yet no one was in the room. Our tiny attic was connected to their bathroom, and I checked it. Nothing. My first conclusion was that they all went out to eat without me, for the first time in our entire lives without me. So I was crushed. I went into the garage expecting to find cars gone, or at least one of us out there. And I got out, and everyone's car is there. Not only that, but I had stepped outside and had expected to hear something, planes, cars, people, and etc. All I heard was still this deafening silence that was so alien to me. Half a mile from an airport, I should have heard something. It was like I was the last person on Earth. silent. Not only that, but I also didn't see anyone at the airport either. The reality was, I couldn't find my family, and I was absolutely terrified now. At this point, I lost it. I sat on a bench and just cried. I pinched myself repeatedly, hoping to end whatever was going on, but it didn't work. I ended up just sobbing on the bench and watching the clock, hoping that this would end somehow and I would have my family back. 20 minutes passes, then 1 hour, then an hour and a half, then 2 hours on the bench, then 3 hours. But then out of nowhere, my dad just walks into the kitchen, and I saw it from the bench. The door was glass, so you could see through it. I jumped up and ran into the kitchen and hugged him as tight as I could. I asked him, "Where were you?" And he just said, "I've been here. What are you talking about?" My jaw hit the floor. Then I noticed my cousins come out of our room that we shared, and my aunt comes into the kitchen from her room. People suddenly materialized, and I was shocked, but I was just as excited to have my family back. Life went on from that point, and there was no waking up or anything like that. So, please, let me know what your thoughts are. Hi everyone. Let me preface this by saying that there has always been creepy shit happening around me, and I have several stories of my dad's old house, which myself and my siblings all agree is haunted as fuck. I also had my dead best friend visit me twice, which was really nice. So this evening, my partner, 42 and male, and I, 30 and female, were upstairs sorting laundry when his daughter, 17, called us downstairs as dinner was ready. I was heading down the stairs and my partner right behind me, like literally 2 steps behind me. He did his usual thing of tickling the back of my neck as we walk. The bottom of our stairs is wooden, so you can hear when somebody steps onto it from the carpeted stairs. When we got to the bottom, my feet hit the floor as usual, and I turned to ask him something, and he wasn't there. He wasn't fucking there. I totally froze for a second and looked up the stairs, and there he was, on the top step, pale and shaking. I asked him what the fuck just happened, and he kept saying, "I don't know. I don't know. I was behind you, and before I hit the bottom, the next step took me back upstairs." We are very freaked out, but we didn't say shit to our girl as she's already leery of this stuff, although he and I are somewhat used to it. And I'm trying to get the courage to leave my laptop recording audio overnight because there definitely is something weird happening. I was just talking to my partner about the jump while we were cleaning our bedroom, and the second that he makes a joke about spooks a-poppin', our bedroom door and bathroom door just slammed shut one after the other. I'm chalking it up to our bedroom window being open a crack, and I don't want to think of alternatives. Just to give you guys some context, I was in my bedroom, on my bed, watching a movie on my tablet and eating a Toblerone bar. As I had already eaten half of it, I felt I needed something to drink. I went to the kitchen, grabbed myself a glass of milk, and headed back to my bedroom to continue the paused movie. As I was laying back in bed, kind of half sitting, half laying down, and I remember this as clear as water, I placed the glass of milk on the little table by my bed and grabbed the chocolate bar to break a few more pieces before the movie, never looking away from what I was doing. 2 pieces slipped between my fingers and fell to the floor. I saw them hit the floor. Then they split into different directions, one under the bed and the other under the table. Since I have a dog, and vets warn us that chocolate is like poison to dogs, I immediately jumped out of my bed to get the chocolate before my dog did, although he wasn't with me then. On a side note, I have nothing under my bed, just free space that you can see across to the other side of the room, and my floor is all white. I mean, that chocolate is dark colored, and the floor is light colored. Impossible to not immediately find it, right? Well, so I jumped from off my bed in search of the chocolate pieces, only to find out that they had completely vanished. I grabbed my phone to use as a flashlight, even though it was just around 2 p.m., and the blinds were fully open, and it was a beautiful sunny day outside. I swung it around the floor for 5 minutes, hoping that the extra light would help, only to come up empty-handed. I told my mom what had happened, and she helped me move the furniture in my bedroom because she was also afraid that my dog would eat the chocolate. So we were at it for a good 25 or 30 minutes, and my mom even asked me if this was some sort of prank, and I swear it wasn't. But the chocolate was never found, until we eventually gave up. This happened about 2 to 3 years ago, and from time to time, I will go look around for the chocolate and remember about that half hour when all I could think was, "How is this possible?" Or, "No way." Since then, I have moved the bed around the room a few times. I get bored fast of a room's layout, but I have never glimpsed the vanished chocolate ever again. Okay, so this is my first post here, and I'm incredibly grateful that I found this sub, but also scared. I've always been one to believe in glitches, but this one legitimately made me feel chills all down my spine because I can't think of any explanation that makes any kind of sense. If you can think of something, please comment because it will probably calm me down. This happened around an hour ago, so I'm still pretty shaken. Also, I don't know if this kind of post breaks the rules, so downvote the fuck out of me if I'm breaking any rules. Anyways, story time. So about an hour or so ago, I had came inside from smoking a cigarette after getting home, and I'm just physically and mentally exhausted. I've been having a pretty rough week, and I've just been in a bad mood lately and in a bad funk. So once I got inside, I tried to throw my keys onto my coffee table, but overshot by quite a bit and I didn't hear them land. As I'm about to walk into my kitchen, literally seconds after tossing them, something hits me in my back and I hear a key jingle sound. I turn around and my keys are on the ground by my feet, and I froze up, and I stood there for a minute. I picked my keys up, put them in my pocket, got a glass of water, and had been looking all over the internet for the past hour, trying to figure out what the fuck happened. I stumbled across this subreddit, and now I'm asking all of you to maybe help explain to me what I just experienced. I'm an insomniac, and I don't get a lot of sleep, so maybe my lack of sleep is taking a toll on my mental state, causing me to think irrationally. I'm trying to think of every feasible situation that could explain this, but I'm at a dead end. Hopefully, someone here can help. I'm typing this on a throwaway or second account because as much as I need to pour all these thoughts out, I'm embarrassed by how out there this all might seem. I don't remember anything before age 19, and there's no explanation for this. I see a neurologist for my epilepsy, but I have no history of concusssion, head trauma, anything that would explain such memory loss. I haven't even had a seizure in years. I'm pretty sure doctors think I over-exaggerate, as they say there's no reason my memory should be like this. I don't do drugs, I don't drink, I don't have any diagnosis to explain any of it. The memories I do have are patched together using the medical records or the psychiatric treatment, typical teenager things like depression and anxiety, nothing too unusual, but there are notes from inpatient stays which are helpfully descriptive, and also from what I've heard from my relatives. My mom is the closest to me, but she doesn't like opening up a lot. I've asked her about my past or about my medical records, and she quickly becomes uncomfortable and upset. She gave up her job to take care of me in high school, and I graduated in 2017, and she is still unemployed, something that I feel guilty about, so I don't bring it up. My earliest solid memory that feels real and not made up by secondary sources is the first time my boyfriend picked me up. We matched on Tinder. It was January, snowing, dark and late at night, and I was 19. I was a very sleepy person back then, and I remember I'd sleep the entire time until it was time for me to go back home. He is still lovely, and he has taught me many tiny things. I may be able to walk, talk, function like any other adult because I have zero life experience, which takes some patience to deal with. The hardest part to put into words of this whole thing is why haven't I noticed any of this earlier? Why at 22? Is this like a weird revelation? It felt like I just randomly woke up in this body one day and didn't think much about it until 3 years later. It's still a lot to take in, I guess, and I'm getting more annoyed with this body. This entire time, this body has been a pain in the ass, and that's where I came up with a theory that this body should have, and might have, died some time ago. First of all, my teeth. Oh Lord, my teeth. I get questions from dentists saying, "Why are your teeth like that?" And I have to give them some bullshit like, "I took a lot of medicines as a teen," or whatever seems fitting from my medical records. I just so quickly try to make sensible answers rather than just saying that, "I don't fucking know." The pain. There's holes in my teeth. They're rotted. Why the fuck are they like this? I don't know, but it's fucking painful. It's like I have the damn teeth of a corpse. And my lungs, my chest, everything hurts. Damn, asthmatic lungs. And I never feel hungry either. But I do like pizza and coffee. And call that basic, but eating and drinking is more pleasure than necessity to me, not an issue as I always am tempted into cravings. Another annoyance is the obligations. Eating, drinking as I mentioned, an important obligation, and calling my dad and other relatives. I forget often because I don't have much memories of them, and I'm fully aware it's an important social obligation. Yet here I am, still in this weird body, keeping up with all my obligations and responsibilities and all that. It's all strange, just weird. I'm happy I got it all out, as incoherent as this may seem, but reading some of the posts in the sub showed me that I'm not alone in this sort of experience. I've been watching a lot of glitch stories on YouTube recently, so I thought I'd come here to share mine. I used to go around pubs hosting karaoke events, and there was one in Hayes that I did once a month. After being there a few times, I got to know some of the regulars, in particular, this nice elderly man called Steve and his usual crowd. He told me he used to work in the military in the area that I live, and I told him that my grandfather, who was around the same age as him, was a military man, and asked if he knew him. After calling my granddad to confirm, it turns out that they did know each other, and my grandfather was Steve's sergeant when they were in the army. We talked further over the following weeks, and he shared many stories of his army life. He mentioned he knew my father and uncles, as my granddad told him about them during their time together. And he oddly mentioned that he remembered one of my grandfather's grandchildren called Ben. He said he had been a chef for about 6 years and had just started working at a pub in Woodside, Ascot. I told him that that was a weird coincidence, as my name is Ben and I was training to be a chef. We both shrugged it off as him forgetting the correct name, as it was years prior than they had spoken about it. Later that year, I stopped hosting karaoke and focused on my catering job, as I had finished college and had gotten a job at a small pub just near Bracknell. I was there for a couple of years before the place shut down, and spent the course of the next couple of years or so working between a few different chef jobs until I got a job at a pub in Fifield. The owners had owned pubs before, but had only recently gotten one in this area and were looking to expand. I got on well with them, told them, and ended up becoming their head chef. After just under a year of working with them, they told me they had got another site, and as their head chef, would I be willing to get the kitchen set up for them and kick-start it as they get staff. I agreed, and we went to see the site. It was a nice little pub called the Rose and Crown in Woodside, Ascot. It was only when we got another chef in and they started asking me about myself that I clocked it. I had been a chef for 6 years at this point and was now working in a pub in Woodside, Ascot, just like Steve had said. This happened to me many years ago, back in the 70s when I was about 17 years old. A friend of mine who was married set me up with a man who was a friend of her husband's. He hadn't known him all that long, and he was renting a room from a woman in the town. The town was a small one in Wiltshire, England. He was a lot older than me, and I wasn't terribly keen on him. But we went out a few times, and I found his behavior odd from day one. Being young, I was not ever going to sleep with this man, and he never pushed to the point, but he had a few weird bones that were twisted in an odd way. He claimed he had been a speedway rider and broken them, which I accepted, but they still looked odd to me. Anyway, it was autumn in October, if I remember correctly, and we went out with my friend and her husband to a local pub, then went back to my friend's flat for a coffee. It was 11 p.m. when I said I was going to go home, so he said he would walk me. We started off, it wasn't very far, about half a mile or so. We were walking through a housing estate when a pile of leaves started following us down the road. My God, I know this sounds utterly bloody stupid, but there it was, following us with intent. I turned around and said to him, "What the hell is going on?" He then started to cry, saying, "Oh no, they found me, they found me," and was getting hysterical. I was not very happy myself. I picked up the bundle of leaves and threw them over a hedge, got really angry, and told him that I was going. I marched off, and really after all this time, I am still weirded out by even typing this story. So I marched off, and he trailed behind me still crying. In order to get to my street, we had to cross a play park. There was one streetlight near the entrance, Then a path led off across the park and you could see the lane on the other side. Where the next light was, he caught up and took my hand and I kept walking. In the middle of the park, it seemed really dark, but the next thing I know, we are out on the other side and coming out into the main stream when my father pulled up in his car and he was frantic. "Where the bloody hell have you been?" he yelled. I was stunned. "What do you mean?" "It's 3 o'clock in the bloody morning. I've been looking for you for hours." He had been to my friend's house at midnight when I hadn't come home, and she told him that I had left at 11, and the walk home shouldn't have taken more than 25 minutes at most. But there it was, 3 a.m., and I had lost at least 3 hours, even including the leaves incident. The next day I told him that I didn't want to see him anymore. He was upset, but I was in trouble with the parents, and he was just too bloody weird. There were a lot of other things about him that didn't add for me for a man of his age. Plus, he refused to tell me anything about what happened the night before. After that, he just vanished. My friend's husband made inquiries to this landlady, and she said that he just left in the night, put the rent on the table. I was never heard from again. So that's my glitch story. No idea what happened to me or him, and I don't think I really want to know either. It sounds like pure bullshit, I know, but it happened whether you believe it or not, and it makes no odds really. There were a few after effects. I had really weird dreams for a while and had some mood issues. But that could have been just me being 17. This happened this morning, and I'm still trying to logically piece together what happened. I went to the gym this morning, wearing masks 6 feet apart and 10 people maximum. I went into the small squat room with a max capacity of 3 people. As I walk in, there's a lady finishing her workout and says to me, "I wiped down this one. It's good to go if you want to use it." I accepted and thanked her. I watched her walk out of the room through the mirror, and I quickly noticed that she left her water bottle behind by the squat machine, and I was now using about 1 foot to my left, along with her hoodie about 4 feet behind me lying on the floor. I then anticipated her to walk right back into the room to retrieve her belongings, and I didn't start my workout as I was still stretching and procrastinating starting while anticipating her backtrack. I was able to see the only door in the room from many angles as the room has mirrors on the walls. In a somewhat subconscious thought process, I look at her water bottle and admire the stickers she has on it. I even thought about gathering it for her and putting it by her hoodie. That way, we could maintain the 6-foot distance. But I decided it was probably better if I didn't touch a stranger's belongings. I went back to stretching with an ever so slight anxiety, subconsciously and consciously awaiting her arrival while keeping the door in my peripheral vision. I decided to take one last look at the water bottle before I started my workout, and it was not there. I quickly snapped behind me to look at the hoodie, and it was also gone. I was shocked. I got lightheaded from the confusion and looked outside the room with no one there. I quickly tried to rationalize what had just happened, thinking maybe I just didn't see her, but I would have seen her through the mirror, heard her or seen her grab the water bottle, as it was right next to me. I'm still kinda spooked. I'm so glad I found this forum because I recently had a strange experience that I can't really explain, and I have had nowhere to talk about it and no one to talk about it with until now. I hope I can explain it well enough, and this is also my first Reddit post, so I hope it's acceptable for you all. Here goes. My birthday is the 6th of October, and this last one was quite uneventful with one exception. Let me first preface a little bit by saying that between 1 to 2 days before my birthday, I had 3 different and unrelated people tell me happy belated birthday, which I thought nothing of when the first person said it, but by the 3rd time, I was thinking maybe my birthday on my Facebook profile changed somehow. So I checked, and it wasn't. It was set to show my correct birthday. Fast forward to the night of the 4th, and my partner, after a long commute, got home from work at 7 p.m. and started complaining about a match with his favorite soccer team. They are usually a very excellent team and win majority of their matches. He was enthusiastically telling me that they had lost against a team that was known to be not so stellar. He told me the score was 7-2, which he repeated several times throughout the night in disbelief. When this conversation happened, I was sitting in the chair at our dining table and he was sitting on our 2-seater lounge about 2 meters away from me. Fast forward again to the next day, the 5th, and it was about 5 p.m., and my partner had just gotten off work and sent me a screenshot of a score message saying that he was so upset that his favorite football team lost 7-2. I told him, "Don't you remember we had this conversation last night? They lost 7-2 because of blah blah blah," and I told him all the other reasons. And he said, "What conversation? I have no idea what you're talking about." Needless to say, I was confused at this point and thought he was acting strangely. What was he talking about? We absolutely 100% had the conversation, and there was zero doubt in my mind. I was there in person and it happened. It wasn't a dream. So I pushed further and described what I remembered. He said, "What are you on about? That didn't happen. And there was no way we talked about it last night. They didn't even play until 2 a.m. this morning." So I furiously went on to Google to find the list of game times. And to my shock, he was right. The only game that had the score result of 7-2 was a match that was played that very morning at 2 a.m. my time. There was absolutely nothing the night before, when we clearly had that conversation. But I was the only one remembering it happened. So that coupled with the odd belated birthday wishes when it wasn't even my birthday yet, it made me kind of wonder if I was somehow glitched forward in time to a day later for a short period. I'm still just as confused about it, and he still also denies it happened, including where we were sitting. I love this sub, so I thought I'd share some stories that you might find interesting. It's an inside joke with my family that someone up there has many wires mixed up because I always have weird coincidences or unexplainable things happen. I also get those dreams that come true later too. These are stories of other people experiencing weird things that involved me but were not caused by me. So, I hope you enjoy. First, a woman who frequented my dad's workplace convinced him that she knew me and sponsored me in a little league. I've never played Little League, but I did volunteer at some games with my after-school club doing arts or snacks. The next time she came around, they chatted, and my dad mentioned that I never played sports. She was adamant that she sponsored me, and the next time she came in, she showed him a photo of a team flag with my name stitched in. I have a somewhat unique name. Probably less than 10 people had ever had my first and last name combo, and my dad thought she was weird and gave her business to his colleague. A second one, an old friend I hadn't spoken to since high school, texted me out of the blue saying that she had a crazy dream that I was in a car accident. I was commuting during rush hour and a truck switched into my lane without looking, pushing me into the median. She texted me as I was sitting in the back of an ambulance, getting looked over, and I sent her a selfie with the EMT to freak her out. And the last one, I used to live next door to my cousin when we were in high school. It was a duplex situation with stairs splitting the building into a left and right side, so our front doors faced each other. I would often go over to escape chores at home or to just hang out. I'd text my cousin, "Hey, come open the door," followed by knocking an obnoxious tune, and he'd come let me in. One night I was up late watching a movie in my living room. I get a knock at the door and open it to see my cousin standing outside looking rather tired and annoyed. He asked me if I was coming over or not, to which I said no, I'm in the middle of a movie. He asked why I had been knocking on his door and texting him then. We checked my phone and my outbox had 6 texts in a row saying, "Open door." It freaked us out and I texted him while he was next to me. I sent, "What the fuck? I didn't text that." And, "Don't open the door." In between my 2 texts to him, another "open door" was sent. He had his messages open and we saw all 3 messages pop up in real time. This was before I had a smartphone, so I chalked it up to an actual tech glitch. But my cousin maintains that he heard a melodic knocking on his door at the same time he got the first 6 open door messages. Hi, thanks for watching the video. I really appreciate it. If you want to send me a story to read, feel free to do so. My email is in the description of the video. And if you want to follow me on my social media, just to get updates or maybe to talk, the links and info for my Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram accounts are also in the description. And finally, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. And turn that bell on to be notified for upcoming surprises. And remember, your fear feeds me.